In this video, I'm going to show you 7 Final Cut Pro editing tips that every content creator needs to know about. Let's start at the beginning. No, really, let's start at the beginning. You may have noticed a change here on YouTube, where if you're on the desktop app and you hover your cursor over a thumbnail, that video starts to autoplay, or if you're on your phone and you stop scrolling, that video will start to autoplay. What this means is that the thumbnail has become slightly less important in impacting your click-through rates, and that the intro of your video has become more important because that thumbnail goes away and the video starts. So you want to make sure that the intro of your video is really visually interesting. Now, if you don't know how to make motion graphics, let's say in Apple Motion, or you don't want to pay for third-party effects, I'm going to show you a really easy way to spice up your YouTube intro with tools native to Final Cut Pro. Let's go. So here's your boring run-of-the-mill YouTube intro. Let me show you how to make this more interesting. I'm going to head over to my titles and generator sidebar, and I'm going to look for this category here, dynamic titles. These are title templates that come with Final Cut Pro. So you can browse these templates, and each set has different elements that you can mix and match and customize. So I'm going to reach for this geometric bumper, and you can see that it animates in full screen. In this case, I don't really want the headline text. I just want these cool geometric shapes. So what I'm going to do is select that title in my timeline, and then in the viewer, I'm just going to click on the text and bring up the title inspector, and I'm going to clear out where it says headline text. I don't want that. Then what I want to have happen is for all of these rectangles to animate in behind my subject. So I'm just going to hold down the Option key and click and drag my live action video on top of that title template. And then I'm going to trim that stacked live action video to about the length of the title template. And then I'm going to apply the magnetic mask to our speaker and maybe everything in the foreground of the shot. And now those animating rectangles are landing behind her. I'm going to select that title again, head on over to the title inspector, and I can modify these colors. The last color is this white here. I'm actually going to color pick from the wall behind her and add a cross dissolve to the end of this bumper. So it looks like the rectangles fade out and the wall just comes back in. And if I wanted to really customize this look, I could change all these colors, or I could add some texture to that by heading down to the stylize effects, and let's just drag and drop the crosshatch on there. That looks cool. And if I wanted to add a text overlay to this woman, I could grab another bumper. I'm going to go to the expressive category, and in the title inspector, I'm going to change the background from default to off, and that just leaves me this title animation, and just make some quick adjustments to this text. And just that fast, a super visually interesting YouTube intro that I did with tools native in Final Cut Pro, and you saw it only took a couple minutes. Another amazing tool in Final Cut Pro allows you to take your 16:9 content and repurpose it into vertical videos in a snap. Let me show you this one. So you can see I've got a 16:9 travel vlog here in my timeline. And if I wanted to make this a vertical video, it's so easy. Just head on up to your browser, right-click on the project, and select Duplicate Project As. You're going to get this pop-up window where you can rename your project, change the format to vertical, adjust the resolution, and then what you want to do is make sure you check this box here for Smart Conform. Hit OK, and Final Cut's going to think for a second, and then it's going to give you a duplicate of your project, this time in the vertical format, and it's going to center all of your video cuts for you right on the subject. Now, to drive home this point, I'm going to zoom way out on my viewer, enable my transform tools, and just run through these shots so you can see they truly are not just centered. Final Cut Pro has actually sensed the subject of each shot and adjusted the X position of the shot on your vertical video to make sure the subject is in frame. Such a great tool. Another great tool for content creators, particularly those who upload vertical videos to Reels, YouTube Shorts, or TikTok, are custom overlays. You know that when you upload a vertical video into one of these apps, the app overlays a ton of content, text, icons, and all sorts of other stuff on top of your video. If you want to make sure that nothing important in your video is going to be blocked by these in-app overlays, you might want to import some custom overlays into Final Cut Pro. So here at the top of the viewer, under the View menu, select Choose Custom Overlay, and then select Add Custom Overlay. And you can import a PNG file, a transparent file, into your Final Cut app. And once you've done that, head back on to View, choose Custom Overlay, select the overlay you want to see in your viewer. And now we can see where all of those icons and all of that text is landing around our frame. And we can switch between the different apps. And it's important for you to know that these custom overlays are not baked into your video. So when you export, your video will be clean. These overlays are just a temporary tool. Now, Final Cut Pro doesn't come with these custom overlays that I've shown you here, but lucky for you, you can download them for free on my website, JennJager.com. Just head on over to JennJager.com, navigate to the blog section, and you'll see the blog entry where you can download these free custom overlays. And JennJager.com is also where you can access my full Final Cut Pro courses, including my best-selling course, Final Cut Rockstar. I give you all the media to download, so we work on a project side by side together. It's self-paced, and it's designed for beginner to intermediate editors, whether you've used Final Cut Pro before or you've been using it for a long time. I get a lot of feedback that people who think they knew a lot about Final Cut Pro learn a ton, so you'll definitely want to check that out if you're interested in upping your game in Final Cut Pro. All right, another great tool for content creators is from a third-party developer called Creator's Best Friend. So you probably know when you upload videos to YouTube, you have the opportunity to input chapters into the description field. And these chapters are great because they allow viewers to jump to the part of the video they're most interested in. And they're also an optimization tool to help you get better found in search for subtopics within a greater video. And by the way, if you want to know a lot more about optimizing your videos on YouTube, I talk about that a lot on my main channel. So I'll link to a video down below that gives you more information about that. But like I said, adding these chapters to your YouTube videos is really a great way to help your channel grow. However, I hate the process of doing this on YouTube. They give you this little playback window so you can watch your video back, but I find that sometimes it doesn't play back smoothly and I'm trying to listen to what I said and put in my chapters. I find it super annoying. It's actually easier to do in Final Cut Pro with that workflow extension I mentioned, Creator's Best Friend. So here you can see one of my YouTube videos. It's a long one, and I really would have a hard time watching this back on YouTube, especially while my video is uploading. So instead, what I'm going to do is add chapter markers here in my timeline by positioning my playhead, double-clicking the M button, and making this a chapter marker instead of a regular marker. Then I can type in the title of my chapter, and then I need to go through and repeat that process for all the different sections in this timeline. And now once I've done that, I just need to head up to this puzzle piece icon at the top left of the Final Cut Pro UI. This is where you can find all of your workflow extensions, like for instance, Creator's Best Friend. Once I select it, I get this pop-up window. I just have to drag my project from my browser right into this window. And it takes all of that data I put in the chapter markers and translates it into YouTube compatible text with time codes. So then I just copy to the clipboard. And then I can head on over to my YouTube video, and then right in the description, I can paste the chapters from Creator's Best Friend, and now viewers can just jump right to these specific chapters directly in YouTube. I'm going to link to Creator's Best Friend down below. My next tip is one that I think is going to solve a lot of problems for a lot of creators. This is a question I get asked a lot. How do I open up my Final Cut library and have all of the elements I use over and over and over again in that library every time? And the truth is, there really isn't a built-in way to do this, but there is a system that you can build yourself to keep all of your elements like your subscribe animations or any other animating overlays, particular music cuts you like to use a lot, or anything else always fresh in your library. So this is the way I personally like to do it. You can see in my event, here are all my YouTube videos for the month of February. And at the end of this list is an event called ZZ Icons. I start the name of this event with 2 Z's, so I know it's always going to be at the bottom of my library, so I always know where to look for it. And then whenever I start a new library in Final Cut Pro, I take this event and I drag it into the new library. And I include all of the original media. What this is going to do is duplicate all of those elements into that new library. So you can see I have the same event in both libraries. So now that I've copied that event into my new library, what if I wanted to modify any of these elements, like this subscribe animation here? You could see it's full screen, it's really big, and I don't always use subscribe animations in that way. So if I want a shortcut for modifying this particular animation, maybe I want to make it smaller and I want it to be in the lower right corner of the screen a lot of the time, I can actually modify this animation in Final Cut Pro and then save that modified version right to this event all inside Final Cut Pro without having to export anything. It's super easy. Let me show you. So I'm going to start a new project and I'm going to set it to automatic settings. And then I'm going to drop in this subscribe animation. And then all I need to do is select that element in my timeline and I'm just going to resize and reposition it. You know what? I'm even going to add a sound effect in here. Now what I'm going to do is select both of those clips and hit Option G to create a compound clip. And now that compound clip has appeared in my event. Let me enable the waveform so you can see it's in there with the sound effect on it. And I can go back and delete that project. I don't need it, but my compound clip is still here in my event. And so now every time I want to apply this subscribe animation with this formatting, so shrunken down, lower right corner with the effect, it's already built for me and easily accessible in this event. This is a great shortcut for content creators who use the same elements over and over and over again. All right, my next great tool that all creators need to know in Final Cut Pro is called voice isolation. If you don't know about this yet, prepare to be wowed. So this is a real video from a YouTube creator, and she's shooting in a restaurant in Hong Kong, and there's so much background noise while she's trying to talk. Listen to like the clank of the dishes.
Hot place called Lo Ha Hot Pot. Lo Ha. Lo Xia, which means downstairs.
I mean, that's pretty bad. So what I'm going to do is section out that section of the video where she's in this restaurant, head on up to the audio inspector, select dialogue 1. We just have one channel of audio here. And then what I'm going to do is check this box for voice isolation. And then I can use the slider to increase the amount of the noise reduction depending on how bad the audio is. Let's crank it up a little because that background noise is tough.
Hot place called Lo Ha Hot Pot. Lo Ha. Lo Xia, which means downstairs.
I mean, that is a significant improvement. You should know, though, that the more you push up the voice isolation slider, the more it can distort the speaker's voice. So you really need to find the sweet spot between where the background noise is significantly reduced and still preserving the quality of the speaker's voice. It takes a little trial and error sometimes, but I think we can all agree that's a huge improvement and a essential tool for content creators, particularly those who shoot out in the field and cannot control the background noise around them. All right, my last tip for you is one that lets you really easily add jump cuts to your YouTube videos. Now, as a traditional editor, I am not a big fan of jump cuts. I was brought up in the editing world being told that jump cuts were unacceptable, but I do recognize that YouTubers do use jump cuts to maybe increase the pace of their YouTube videos. In fact, I have a video from a YouTuber here who teaches people how to grow their YouTube channels, and he's actually advocating for adding unnecessary jump cuts just to pick up that pace. So if you are the type of creator who likes to add jump cuts, I'm going to show you the fastest way to add them to your YouTube content. Here's a YouTube creator who makes interesting craft projects, and she does not utilize jump cuts. So I grabbed a section of one of her videos, and I'm going to show you how to super quickly add jump cuts where there are none. So what I'm going to do is make sure that I have a good look at the waveforms in my timeline. If you're not seeing waveforms in your timeline, head over to the top right of the timeline, open up the clip appearance menu, and play with the ratio of video to audio on your clip by toggling through these buttons. So let's go here. And now what I'm going to do is enable the range tool by hitting the R key. And now my cursor has changed and I can just select sections where I see gaps and where she's taking a breath. And I can just hold down my mouse button, click and drag to make the selection, and then hit the delete key on my keyboard. Much faster than using the blade tool and trimming. Final Cut Pro is an awesome editing app for creators. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you again.